Shut up, Lawler. Shut up, okay? We know the YouTubes are the peasants, but shut up, alright? Sup, babe? Good to see you. Lawler, how you doing? Laughing Panda. How's it going? Laughily. It's been a hot minute, Lawler. So you're coming in on a stream where you're gonna not know what the hell's going on. You're not gonna know what's going on. You haven't watched in a while. Yeah, Laughly gets a thumbs up. Yeah, Laughly gets a thumbs up. Lawler gets a shut up. Shut up. Yeah, you haven't watched in a month or two, you're gonna be way out of your depth, man. You're gonna have to go back on my YouTube live. You're gonna have to go back on the platform that you hate oh so much, and you're going to have to become the peasant upon which you have just made fun of. Okay, and you're going to have to watch. Otherwise, you're going to be out of your depth here. You're not going to know what the hell we're talking about. As a matter of fact, Lawler, as a matter of fact, you're probably going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist nut job. That's what you're going to think. If you come in on this stream right now, this second, and we're going to get into the topic that we're going to get into, this entire stream is dedicated to, you're going to be like, what the hell happened to Spiro? Bro, he fell off. Did he drink too much water? I became a conspiracy theorist about 5 months ago. I don't know what you're talking about, Lawler. What the hell are you talking about? Specious. What's up, man? You've been here for the downfall. You were watching. You're clipping. I hope you're clipping. And even if you're clipping, because it's not real if you're not clipping, right? And even if you're clipping, what is it, bros? What are the house rules around here? What are the house rules? Even if you clip it, what's the house rules? No, I ain't clipping shit level. That's not the rules, Laughly. That's not the rules. Not the rules, man. The rule. Hey, what's up, Sophie? The rules are even if you clip it, it's deep fake AI. Killer says you were whack back then. Now you'll think he's the mastermind. That's right. I've always been a conspiracy theorist. Oh, Lawler, not yeah. TMX, what the hell? Lawler, was that a Freudian slip? Are you calling Lawler someone who 404's lives? TMX, bro. That's not very cool on the YouTube side. Lawler, I think you were right. The YouTube side is just a bunch of degenerate scumbags. By the way, Lawler, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm going to have to update the pricing. Who said there were rules? Abe? Okay. How long have you been here? Like 2 seconds? Or like, okay, you're like a baby compared to how long other people have been here, okay? You don't get to have a say in this. You haven't earned a say in this. What the hell, Abe? Abe just pops in and he's like, oh, yeah, who said there was rules? Oh. Shut up, Abe. Jeez. People think they can just come on here and vibe stream me. Only Laughly gets that privilege. Only Laughly gets the privilege to vibe stream me. What's up, Chronix? Good to see you, man. You know, I haven't been able to watch in forever, but I keep my sub to support, so I'm still part of the journey. You are, Lawler. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Lawler. Yeah. AI changes what I type. Yeah, now, you know what bros, you've been here since 1809. Abe LARPing. Abe LARPing. The first rule is not questioning the rule. That's right. That's right. That's the first rule of my cult. Welcome to my cult, everyone. We drink coffee around here and we talk about other cults. Can we remove the YouTube scrubs from here? You know, I'm about this close. Between Abe and TMX, I'm about this close to removing the scrubs. I can't cult of Floppydopolis. I kind of like that. It rolls off the tongue, don't it? Cult of Floppydopolis. Wow, we're off to a strong start, ain't we? You guys are funny today. Yeah, I miss this place too. Yeah. I was here yesterday. I missed it. Because it's not like this normally. Normally I start the stream and there's like 2 people on and it's not like this. You guys are on the bender today. I like it. Abe is hiding his elongated skull. He's learning so much. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Aliens confirmed. Yeah, Abe is an alien confirmed. Hey, did you guys hear about this? Apparently there's a new scientific study where there's a supposed alien spacecraft heading towards Earth and it's potentially hostile. I don't know if it's peer reviewed. I didn't have a chance to check it, but I just saw it before chat. So, before stream. So I don't know, guys. Abe might know something. Told everyone I'm doing a chat come back. Well, you sure did. What's up, Mist? Mist is here. Okay, okay. YouTube is saved because Mist is here. All right. Spiro, why do I get ads for women's hair products only on your channel? Laughfully, I think you and I both know the answer. All right. You and I both know the answer. Stream followers are floppies. Peer review is the least of your problem. If there's an actual alien, ship heading our way, yeah, it would be the least of your problems. But you know what? If you purchase the women's hair products on my Twitch channel, when the aliens do show up, you will have smooth, silky legs upon which to greet them. In fact, that might save you because they might find you attractive enough to keep you alive. Now, you might end up in a cage, having untoward acts being carried out upon you by alien overlords, but you shall be alive. Huh? There you go. So there you go, Laugh. It's potentially hostile as in flip a coin, as in, yeah, it's stats. It's just stats, right? It's quantum mechanics. Floppy tech news. What's with the floppy? Where the hell did floppy come from? Why? Why you guys do this? What kind of a chat have I fostered here? I thought, guys, I'm supposed to be your cult leader. I'm not supposed to be a punching bag. I call that a lie. Shut up, Laugh. All of you can shut up. All of you suck. Okay, you all get a preemptive suckage. No, that came out wrong. No. No, that came out wrong. No, it came out wrong. No. It's okay. Watching this stream is basically prep to have aliens do untoward things to fucking hell. Shit. Ugh. Yeah. No, Lawler, you got it wrong. What did I say? What did I actually say? I didn't give the suckage, okay? That's not what I said. I gave preemptive suckage. Okay? My peer review. It's preemptive suckage. God, you guys not even pay attention when I stream? Man, who am I talking to? Shut up, Lawler. Shit. I mean, technically, aren't BJ's peer reviewed? N equals 1, maybe 2 at most. It gives them that scientific method. Severe small scientific. What the hell is this chat? I need to start. I have stuff to cover, bros. Chill. Hope he doesn't show his rat desktop wallpaper again. I got that sorted. TMX. Don't worry. I figured it out. This is the stream equivalent of a dunk tank. Sometimes it's true. You're right. That's what makes this chat fun, honestly. You guys, look, I know that there are other people who think their chat is the best chat in the world, but I'm going to be honest with you folks. You guys are easily the best chat in the world. Easily. What's up, Frank? Good to see you, man. How you doing, Frank? Wow, I'm glad I'm not a Twitch degen. Yeah. Twitch is full of degens and YouTube's full of peasants. That's right. Yeah. So if you're on Twitch, you're a degenerate scumbag. If you're on YouTube, you can't afford to be here. Chat. You guys are the best chat ever. That's a warm welcome. I appreciate it. I have indeed fostered this chat, and I welcome the deprecation of my character, the attacks of my character. I welcome them. It is fun. It is fun to make fun of me. I know, because I do this all the time. You guys are awesome. Shall we get started? This entire stream is going to be fully Technocracy related, and it's going to we're going to bring it up to modernity. And then at that point, we'll just pull on threads as we continue the daily tech news streams in the future. And, we'll finally put the big stuff to bed and just kind of pull on individual threads and make relationships to stuff that we cover moving forward. So figured I might as well just do it in all one big, I don't know what you want to call it. Just one big stream of it. Kiss my peer review speeches. Yeah, TMX. Yeah, have you ever noticed that TMX doesn't send messages on YouTube at the same time that TMX sends messages on Twitch? Interesting. Twitch is what happens after viewing for a year plus. Yeah, Laughing Panda. Laughing Panda, you've been around here for a long time, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being here. Excited to see what kind of conspiracy this. Oh, lower class. Holy crap. We have the lower class. Bros, W's in chat on the YouTube side for lower class. Jeez, man. Good to see you, lower class. How are you doing, man? Lower class, you and I have to chat, man. I got to come on your show or something. Talk to Abe or Emmett or whatever and DM me on Discord or something. We got to get together, man. Welcome in, lower class. Yeah. Yeah. So we're about to do, damn, man, lower class raid. What's up, Ross? What's going on? Was it a raid from lower class? Let me see if it was a raid. I don't know. I don't think so. Anyways, even if it was, I appreciate it, man. All right, so I'm gonna have to do the typical thing, okay? I'm gonna have to do the typical thing where I ignore chat because you're all a bunch of degenerate scumbags, and I hate all of you. What's up, Darth Matt? How's it going? Good to see you. If it was a raid, I can't tell on my end, okay? So if it was a raid, I appreciate it. Have I ever dabbled with Dart? I have not, Chronex. How dare you? How dare you say things? Ghetto raid? Yeah. So it's going to be a conspiracy stream today. It's a full-on conspiracy stream. I'm not going into tech news. I'm not doing anything except for putting the final bow on the conspiracy stream with the technocracy stuff and AI and everything. I'm going to be ignoring chat a lot, and I'm just going to be talking about it. If you are here for conspiracies and how this plays into the tech industry and how ideologies, left and right, have infiltrated the technological space and how it's culminated into what we are experiencing today. Yesterday we left off with the 90s. We went from the 80s to the 90s. We started it at the 30s. I'll do a brief little introduction on it, but we're going to get into it, boys. Last chance to dunk on me. By the way, lower class, if you did do a raid, thank you again. We do have to chat, man. I've recently been developing a mobile app using Dart Flutter. It's been an absolute treat. I'm glad it's working for you, Chronix. I actually don't know enough about Dart and Flutter to actually have an opinion. So just in fairness, okay? So I don't have a real opinion on them, but yeah. Only Mr. Bill is a Goomba time. It's like, I'm going to have to wear the Goomba hat the whole time. Listen, here's an actual conspiracy theory. Let's start with this, all right? Only Mr. Bill, good to see you. So here's what we're going to do. Anytime that I have a conspiracy theory that it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I put on my Goomba hat. So here's an actual conspiracy theory that I have, folks. Okay, and then we're going to get right into it. All right? Have you noticed, might I present the evidence for the amount of global issues that have increased in quantity ever since the death of the Queen of England? Long live the Queen. Right? You'll notice, I'm sure Laughley can confirm this, okay, or anybody else in the UK. Fish and chips have gotten worse. The UK has been nothing but a series of one cyber attack after another. Now they've got the Online Safety Act. They're basically creating their own version of the Chinese firewall. I have this up on the news. I might as well just talk about it just a little bit. Now websites are pretending to ask for your ID verification as if they are in the UK. And then they take your national ID. And it's fake, right? How about the number of earthquakes? How about the number of volcano eruptions? How about the vast expansion of primarily leftist ideology and the rise of Christian nationalism, right? How about that? Ever since the Queen, she held together the entire planet. And unfortunately, as a result of her passing, long live the Queen, nothing tastes right. Video games suck. Tech sucks. Everything sucks, right? All of you suck. Yeah, Lawler. I'm in America. No kings or queens, only Christ. Yeah, bullocks in it. Yeah. Rip the queen. She was a real one. She was a real one. Chronix, get your dart flutter shilling ass out of my chat. Don't come in here and shill languages. You know better than that, Chronix. All right, get your ass out of here. Long live Spiro. No, lower class. Long live lower class. What are you talking about, man? Lower class. We got to talk, man. We got to get together. Yeah, we have to get together. We have to do a stream together. It'll be fun. Thought Elixir was... God, okay, you guys are going off the rails. You're no longer funny. Honestly, you guys are uninteresting. My queen conspiracy theory is much better than what you guys are talking about. The queen held back the deep state. God, you guys suck. What the hell? This is the... If I was to chart how well you guys are doing, it'd be like this right now. You guys are doing this. So how about this then? How about this? Let's get into it. All right. Now I have consistently been having a problem where I show this AI generated peer reviewed paper that actually got published in a scientific journal, and it's completely AI generated. And somehow this passed muster, and it's insane that this actually got peer reviewed. I just want you to know that the scientific community is being attacked by AI slop. There are approximately 20% of scientifically published papers last year that are AI generated, which means they're absolute crap, which means in the near future, we're going to see the scientific community not be able to tell real work from AI work, and they're going to have to throw out years worth of work and make people do real work all over again. This is actually extremely destructive for the entire fundamental underpinning of the science from the last, I would say, 2-ish years to the next 2-ish years before this stuff. So I just want you to respect that. And shit. Guys, I'm sorry. Oh, fuck. I screwed up. I thought I fixed this. But since we're here, you have Dekuk, okay? You have Dekuk, you have Ratat, okay, over here. You have Ratat, you have Testom cells, okay? And then you have the rat here, and then you have Disselsa, and then you have Iliot Cernocamercar cell, and then you have spermatozoa stem cells, and then stem cells. It's Ron Cherry, fucking lower class. The image passed peer review. That's right. What's up, Ghost? More balls. Yeah. I'm sorry. No, this image passed peer review. Correct. This was published. It passed peer review. Correct. Let me take a sip of my coffee, as is tradition. All right. Okay. Let's get into it, shall we? So now I'm ignoring chat. Chat, you're officially on your own. Lower class, you're in charge of chat, all right? Lower class, you, man. You. I'm putting a weighty responsibility on you. You are in charge of chat. All of chat. I have chat on X who rarely say anything, but if they do, you're in charge of them. You're in charge of Twitch chat, and you're in charge of YouTube chat. It's your responsibility. If they go off the rails, you're the problem, all right, lower class? Now, back to this. Oh, fuck, I did it again. Shit, I did it again. All right. So, if you don't know what technocracy is, all right, now I'm ignoring chat. If you don't know what technocracy is, it is a movement that was created in the 1930s by a man named Howard Scott. Why am I talking about technocracy? What on earth does this have to do with anything that I talk about here? I'm a programmer, and I think that the tech industry has gone to complete and utter shit. And I am creating a timeline of the technocratic movement, proving that the ideological bends in history have infiltrated technology as we know it today, down to the very thing that we do, which is programming itself. At the end of the day, programming is nothing but the laws of logic executed on your hardware. That's it. If you know the laws of logic, you know how to program. The only thing you need to know beyond that at that point is just how to understand a subset of English. So now the issue here is that you have things like, I'm sure most of you out there would agree with this, the software is getting worse and buggier and more bloated, and you have to download bigger things, and your security is out there. That's why I cover so many cybersecurity issues on my daily tech news streams, and video games suck, and we get injected with ideological technological stuff in our video games and our TV shows, and now your dishwasher has Wi-Fi. That's a real thing, which can get bricked, which means your dishwasher doesn't work if it receives a bad update. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And now we have AI. And because of AI, there are a group of people who think that they are going to lead human evolution into a new age. And this started in the 1930s, although it did kind of start earlier. We're going to get into that today. It did kind of start earlier, but it was very formalized in the 1930s through this technocratic movement. They had a magazine and they had universal basic income. Imagine $20,000 a year in 1930. The concept is you're a human with electrical signals, inputs and outputs, just like a machine is. And so if you look at a human as no different than an animal or a machine, then you can quantify the entire energetic output that they can produce throughout their whole life. And then you can put a number to that, a financial number, which is $20,000 a year. And then you would use machines, aka AI, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. I'll demonstrate it to you. You would have a bloodless revolution where you would have no politicians, no bureaucracy, no governments. Instead, everything would be run by machines and people who are academically credentialed in math and science to receive a mass amount of information that comes in from the machines, aka data tracking, advertising, and the connected web long before it came into being. And you would receive energy bucks. Let me see if I can get this right. Here we go. And so energy bucks would be given to you by a machine, and these energy bucks would be associated directly to you and only you, aka Bitcoin. Your children could not inherit them. You could not give them to other people. And so there, theft would be non-existent. Why would someone take energy bucks that they themselves could not prove it was theirs and use for themselves? And they thought that, what was going to happen with the photovoltaic cell, if I go here, photocell gives a brain to machines. Gee, have we heard that anywhere? Yes, AI. And artificial general intelligence as the future of AI. So these concepts that we experience today in the tech industry that affect you as a consumer have existed for a long time. And I have good news for you. If you're a consumer out there, you don't have to accept this. I want you to go out and complain. I want you to complain about the quality of software, the quality of games, the quality of websites, the quality of mobile apps, the quality of your car, the quality of your TV. Go and complain. This isn't as good as it gets. This is the worst that it can possibly be. Well, maybe not that it can possibly be, but this is pretty bad. It can be much, much better. You as a consumer, and by the way, if you're in the tech industry, you're a consumer of your own production, need to understand that this has been happening for a long, long time. And as a result of that, we live in a tech industry currently where everything about it sucks. No one's happy with the stuff they have. Vote with your dollar and go complain and ask that the tech industry make things better, because they can. And I prove it on here all the time. So that's kind of the background of the technocratic movement. Now, just as a kind of brief, intro, a brief kind of a reminder into it, the Chilean government, the nation of Chile, actually tried to implement this. They had a room like this. This is a real room that they created. And they had a bunch of, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people at the top. And these people would receive a bunch of information. This was in the mid to late 1970s. And the information coming in was called telex, I believe, which is the precursor to what we have as the internet today. And they would receive a bunch of just raw data, which was stored on cloud hard drives way before cloud was a thing. And then these mathematicians and scientists would sit in this room and they would make decisions about the productive output and the governmental decisions around the entirety of Chile. Now, unfortunately, people weren't happy with them. It didn't work out as well as they had hoped. And the people rose up and took over the government with tanks, literally rode in with tanks. So this didn't work out well. Now, we're going to come back to this. I'm going to bring your attention back to this in a moment for 2 reasons. Here's the first reason, though. The first reason is because I've noticed something. Let me just go down here. So we're just going to do just a brief programming thing here. Here it is. Let me just open the image in a new tab if I can here. So notice this over here on the bottom left. I don't know. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can find a better picture. I don't think there is one. Crap. I don't have a better picture of it. In any case, you kind of get the sense of what it is. It's basically a flow chart where everything is broken down into individual components and decision trees. It's modular. It's an interchangeable widget system, and it's interesting because there seems to be this push up here. This is one of the stupidest articles you will ever read on the face of the planet when it comes to programming. Somebody wrote an article which was touted by people that would be considered respected in the programming field, who are actually just, well, when it comes to programming, at least they're smooth brain. They do tend to be otherwise somewhat intelligent, which I find to be a weird difference. In any case, you can kind of see this person wrote about like the modularization of code and how you can break code apart with like implicit coupling and explicit coupling and so on. This is essentially microservices and object-oriented programming and clean code on steroids. And you can see that this looks very much, this kind of a chart looks very much like the decision chart on that Chilean CyberSyn thing, right? Like, let me go down here. Wherever the next one is. It's just all this stupid crap about Apple Pay. Like this. It looks very familiar, where everything and everyone is an interchangeable widget, and it goes through this kind of like abstract, obfuscated flow of whatever, and then you make decisions, and you kind of see it replicated here in the 70s in actual governmental procedures. So I want to bring that up because it has very much in line with how technocracy plays out today. Okay, now let me switch over and let me bring up the next article. Now, in order for technocracy to actually take place, in order for it to work, what you have to have is a whole bunch of data. Because if you think about what happened in Chile, what they needed to do was they needed to have like an internet connected set of points across the country of Chile. And they would look at things like coal plants and train operations and whatever, and they'd receive a bunch of data, and they'd sit in that room, and they'd pet their evil cat, and they'd make evil decisions. I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. But anyways, so you need information, and then you do like calculations, because after all, what are humans if not just energy inputs and outputs with no soul and nothing else, right? Completely devoid of spirituality. We covered this PDF, which took us to some of the way that data got processed in the 50s all the way through to the 90s. We talked, for example, about PepsiCo, the CEO of PepsiCo, who said, data is really important. Seeing is better than asking. If you have a father who constantly creates, who constantly puts together his son's lunchbox, puts a bunch of veggies in it, and then the kid constantly comes back not having eaten the veggies at the end of the school day, asking the dad what's the most important part of the son's meal, the dad will say the veggies. But when you watch what happens, the way that the son behaves is counterintuitive to that, or it counteracts that. It's not, these two things don't combine because the kid's not eating the veggies. And so the CEO of PepsiCo said, that's why we need to have data where it's surveillance based, not questionnaire based, because if it's or at least very little questionnaire based, because questionnaire based gives you false signals. So as we enter into the 2000s, we've already covered how in the 90s, we have the PayPal mafia, we create PayPal, we create eBay, we create other companies like even Extropia, we have eCash, the precursor to Bitcoin, cryptographic movements, things like this. And now we have the creation of the data oligarchy. So continuing on the PDF, it brings out how Facebook was one of the first massive websites to have a huge, overwhelming amount of people jump on it and suck data straight out of your brain. And man, did they make a killing doing this. They did really well doing this, right? We have Google advertising that came out around the same time, or maybe just a little bit before, but Facebook kind of pushed Google advertising to become as popular as it was because Facebook used it a lot. Then according to a UK government report by 2011, this only escalated because 3 in 5 internet users also use social media by 2011, which was under 1 in 5 in 2007. We have a time difference of 4 years And over half the people that were on the internet were using social media. I mean, this is a huge escalation. You can see this escalate as the 2000s carry on to today. The amount of people on social media, on different platforms, sending their data, having their data leaked, like the T app, we covered that already. It's increasing. And so the amount of data that these companies have access to it's beyond what you could imagine. I want you to imagine for a moment this. This is a true story. Facebook at least used to, and I don't know if they still do, but they used to be able to tell who you were with, even if you didn't have your Wi-Fi or your GPS turned on. What a lot of people do is they will have their Wi-Fi turned on at some point in their life, and as they travel around their city, the Wi-Fi will automatically try to detect, open Wi-Fis around you and then connect to it. That's what your phone would do. Well, that attempt gets logged. So all the open Wi-Fis that it finds around you gets logged. Here's an open Wi-Fi, here's an open Wi-Fi, here's an open Wi-Fi, here's generally where I found it, and here's my attempt to log into it. Some Wi-Fis are based on physical locations, which means now you can trace that log of attempted connected Wi-Fi signals to an actual physical location. So you could walk to a neighbor's house, or you could go to another city entirely, and simply by the nature of what Wi-Fis are around you, Facebook could tell where you were. They didn't need your GPS signal because they would have all the Wi-Fis logged and all their physical locations and which ones you try to connect to. This is the amount of data that Facebook had. They could determine, I believe they could actually determine when you were about to go take a dump. I'm pretty sure there was something about that. I might have to go track that down. That one might be interesting. Now, the problem during the 2000s, and especially in modernity now, is this. You get so much data that it's like a pixelated image. If you've got a picture of a crowd, a low resolution picture doesn't really matter if you just want to make a shape out of the crowd or groups within it. But if you want to zoom in on someone's face, you have to have a really high definition image. So in one way, it was good for them because data, information, fantastic. And another way it was bad for them because they had so much data that they stopped being able to differentiate between groups of people, what the group of people wanted to do, and what individuals wanted to do, which made advertising, a little bit difficult. And then they also talk about the privacy question in here, but who cares about that because nobody respects your privacy anyways. So the paper then concludes by talking about different kinds of data that we're going to see in the future, some of which is playing out right now. We have cookies being changed. We have federated learning. That means that what you're going to do is you're going to distribute data across different platforms, different companies, different groups. That's called data sharing. That's called people buy each other's data. Apple goes to Google and says, hey, I'll buy your data if you buy my data, because they're hoping that what they can do is they can implement algorithms and AI systems and whatnot to filter out the data, right? So it's like federated data. You have personal data stores, which has been attempted, like IPFS. If you don't know what that is, it's like a personal hardware that lives on the internet, and you can share it with people securely. Those kinds of things. This is becoming like what I'm trying to say is that the scope of or the nature of data manipulation, if you will, is changing, right? And so there you go. That takes us to how data is being extracted from us today. Okay. So we kind of have a sense of that. I think these are all pretty fundamental things. It doesn't take much to figure out that that's what's happening. And you know what I find very interesting? Just really briefly, what I find real interesting is that if you ask just about anybody on the street, hey, do you have a phone? And they say yes. And you go, do you think your phone is being watched? Do you think your data is being sent from your phone to, some place that, some other place that you don't know about? Do you think that your phone leaks your data? I think most people would say yes. And yet most people bought into it. I find that to be a very interesting kind of psychological thing that people seem to just be okay with it. All right. Now, in order to move forward, we're going to go, let's go down here. In order to move forward, we're going to go back. We're going to have a look at AI a little bit. Okay, we're gonna drop a few points in here. All right, so we're gonna switch a little gears a little bit, and we're gonna look at the timeline of artificial intelligence. Okay, I've been holding on to this one for this moment so that we could get into the modernity of technocracy, so that we could outline kind of a history of AI. Folks, just so you know, artificial intelligence has existed in many different ways, including some of the ways that we see today, and has failed in almost every way. And it has done so through antiquity. Greek myths of Hephaestus and Pygmalion incorporated the idea of intelligent automata, such as Talos and artificial beings. Sacred mechanical statues built in Egypt and Greece were believed to be capable of wisdom and emotion. We already, right at the beginning, at the time of antiquity, we have the anthropomorphizing of automatons, much like we do today. Nothing new under the sun. This is what you guys need to understand about these artificial intelligence systems. Man has been striving for this for such a long time. It's a deep dive, boys. Buckle in, all right? I know what's going on in chat. You guys are popping off. That's fantastic. Keep trash talking each other. You all suck, by the way. Preemptive suckage, number 2, okay? Then we have the 10th century BC. Yan Shi presented King Mu of Zhou with mechanical men which were capable of moving their bodies independently. Yeah. 384-322 BC, Aristotle described the syllogism, a method of formal mechanical thought in the organon. Aristotle describes means-ends analysis, an algorithm for planning, in Nicomachean Ethics, the same algorithm used by Newell and Simons, General Problem Solver, which was in 1959 an attempt to create an algorithm that would solve general problems, like general AI. 3rd century, right? We get into that. There's the water clock with the alarm. There's the hero of Alexandria, created mechanical men and automatons. It continues, right? We have well, this is just a philosophical one. Then there's some spiritual, artificial creation coming from a spiritual background, including like Arabic alchemical theory. We have the Banu Musa brothers in the 9th century creating a programmable music automaton, describing their book as ingenious devices, a steam-driven flute controlled by a program presented by pins on a revolving cylinder. This was perhaps the first machine with a stored program. And you can kind of look at this. I'm not sure if they actually show it. I don't think there's a picture here. I think I might have got a picture, but you can see it's like just a steam flute. There's precise arithmetic and algebra for an algorithm, which was kind of derived from Al-Khwarizmi, apparently, from this guy. Okay, then we have Ismail al-Jazari created a programmable orchestra of mechanical human beings. And this keeps going, right? 1600 to 1900. The empirical theory of knowledge and inductive logic, the clock for Kepler, in a letter to Kepler, I mean. There's combinatorial theory of cognition, mechanical calculator. Look at this. They invented a mechanical calculator, right? Back in 1642, Pascal. Let's see, Descartes proposed that bodies of animals are nothing more than complex machines. That's it. And so we start to see the idea of Descartes' philosophical leanings going back into the technocratic ideas of man is just a machine, ultimately. It's just electrical inputs and outputs. We keep going. Gulliver's Travels, talking about exactly what we're talking about today. We've talked about... what was the other one? 1984 and Brave New World. Sorry, we've talked about that. We have Bernoulli with the utility of the generalization of probability. And now we have the underpinning of what AI is today, which is just statistical probabilities and decision-making based on just pure stats. That's it. We have the formality of the logical method. We have doctrines around the Bayes theorem, which Bayesian math is being used even today, especially in statistical stuff like AI. We have the chess-playing automaton. We have artificial neural networks in 1795 to 1805 that they were like kind of formally mathematically proved. We have the programmable loom. We will get into Joseph Marie Jacquard a little bit more. The reason why I'm dropping this down now is because there is a line to follow about how programming specifically got pushed. and whether the prevailing wind story of women created programming is true. There's only a little bit of truth to that, as it bears out in evidence, and we'll cover the impacts that both men and women have had historically on programming. It's actually kind of a hard. You'd have to define a line and say this is the line where programming was invented, and then say, well, there you go, right? We'll get into that, so we'll put that aside. We have the idea of cyborgs already coming up. We have Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace. I'm sure you've heard of them. We have Boole with Boolean algebra, right? And so the more we keep going now we get closer to the stuff we were talking about here. Now we start talking about neural networks. We start talking about the 20s and 30s with logical, systems and the technocracy, computational based AI as early as 1931 by Gödel. The lambda calculus, I'm sure some of you have heard about lambda in computational theory. And we just keep going and going and going. DARPA around 1940s, 1950s, we showed a PDF where they had an entire conference. DARPA was talking about neural networks. I think it was late 50s, if I'm being honest. Maybe something, I might have that wrong. We have von Neumann, who was very, very prominent. We have a bunch of prominent scientists, philosophers, social, what would you call them? Social psychologists, maybe, who all hobnob together, and they push the notion forward of transhumanism. So transhumanism starts to pop up around this time. Transhumanist with feminism, technocracy with feminism, gender fluidity starts to pop up around this time. Mostly after the Second World War, it starts to be very popular. And then this kind of transhumanist movement starts turning into, well, why don't we become cyborgs? And so you see people playing around with chess and checkers. Claude Shannon, who promoted some who created some cryptographic information stuff. Asimov, IBM. Let's see, what else do we have here? MIT creating Lisp with John McCarthy. We covered that. We've got Marvin Minsky, who worked alongside, who was it? I believe it was, I can't remember his name, but he worked alongside someone who essentially created the first AI system at MIT, and then it just continues. And now you have man-computer symbiosis, right? Works start to come out with a cyborg theory where part of your body will be integrated into a machine. You'll have a biological liver or a heart or something like this, but your skin will be an exosuit. Your brain will be attached to a visual receptor, which is essentially a camera. I mean, people thought about this stuff in the 60s. We went over that as well on previous streams. We have MIT, DARPA, the U.S. government, U.S. Naval Research. We talked about Operation Paperclip. If you don't believe it, that's fine. You don't have to. The evidence is all out there. I don't care if you believe it. Just go to the National Archives. Operation Paperclip was very real. Essentially, it was just the ability to bring over scientists from a particular time in Germany that we would all be kind of egregiously against, and expunge their war crime history and bring them into different facets of the U.S. government for scientific and other research and development. We are going to get a little bit deeper into that today as well. I promise you that is coming up. And so you can see that these people, they create the person who did the first semiconductor alongside the U.S. government. We looked at that patent. That was somebody who was part of the Operation Paperclip movement. They created the first semiconductor. By the way, semiconductors are running in your machine right now as you watch me. So then we create deep learning algorithms. These philosophical ideas of man is not so different from machine continue to get promoted, including bringing, kind of like dragging from the past into the current time, the philosophy behind machine and humans, and the technocratic structure that would be required to make that work across the world. Neural networks continuing. This just continues. We've gone over it, the 70s. So the point of going over this is you can see just how in-depth and how historical the idea of artificial intelligence is, and the key core aspects of artificial intelligence require at least two important things. That's why technocracy and cybernetics and transhumanism and all of that have taken such hold in our day and age, including movements that are kind of open to that, or ideologies that are open to that. Because one, you need a lot of data. A lot of data. And two, you need to have people who understand an electrical system, a mathematical electrical system of inputs and outputs. And so as a result, you need to have the technocratic movement, just like in the government of Chile. By the way, okay, I'm not going to get, there's a nice little tidbit. Yeah, we'll get to it. Okay, now in order to get data, what you need is access to data, and you need to have people opt into it. So one thing that you can't do is force people. One of the things we went over was this guy. I believe it's Mumford. Lewis Mumford. Lewis Mumford was somebody who was very much against the technocratic movement at the time and the promotion of like cyborgs and transhumanism and all of that. And one of the reasons why he was so against it is because he saw the future. He saw this. And what he said was, I fear, essentially, we went over this on a previous Daily Tech News stream. I fear that the technocrats have figured out a way to get what they want by having people like you and me opt in. And he thought about that in the 50s, I believe he said this. He said that the digital enslavement is here because what happens is people opt in to their own enslavement. That's the Brave New World model. In the 1984 model, people they're not opted in. They're forced through fear. But in the Brave New World model, they like it. They like it. So they opt into it, right? And so what we have before us now is the surveillance capitalism, which is the commodification of personal data by corporations. Guys, I know some of you were thinking this, and I kept my mouth shut. Only a few people knew. But for the longest time, for 1.5 years now, I've been streaming. We're at 93 episodes, so maybe let's say 90, because not all episodes were cybersecurity related. Why do you think I go over cybersecurity issues on pretty much all my episodes? Why do you think I go over scientific studies? Why do you think I go over surveys? Why do you think I go over AI? Yeah, it's boring. Sometimes we have to read a scientific study and we got to slog through the terms, and we're like we're not intelligent enough to read it, but we do it. We do it. Why do you think a high school dropout like me, a dum-dum like me, goes through it? Because we're here. Because it all leads up to this moment. And I had to lay the groundwork for all of these things being true in modernity, then go back in time to prove that they were always true up until modernity. And now we're at the point where we start merging these together. So moving forward, I want you all to shut up about my boring streams. I'm just kidding. But that's why I do what I do. This is planned. My streams are all planned. Everything is planned. Maybe not as well as it should be, but there's a reason why I go over this stuff. So we have the commodification of personal data. So we have things like Google AdWords, search engine optimization, and self-optimization. So this is the thing. Self-optimization, it begins to lead to artificial intelligence, because once you have enough data, then you can apply an artificial intelligence machine such as we have today in order to start making decisions. It's also called the quantified self, which is this stuff where we track your data because you opt in to actually track yourself with these like Fitbit things, and the Uru rings or whatever the hell they're called, and the Neuralink now, right? It's opted in so that you can give data to the technocratic oligarchy hierarchy structure, whatever it is, and all of this data gets funneled up to the people who control whatever they want to do with that data. And part of it is AI, right? And so we're opting into it. We have smart cities. We have data collection on your TV. We have no privacy. We have monitoring. All the stuff that people were realizing in the advertising space in the 70s and 80s. See, don't ask. Get, don't ask. Don't ask a person what's important to them, because if they tell you that health is important to them, but then you apply a little like Fitbit thing or whatever on them, you're going to realize just how unimportant health is to most people, which means people act counterintuitively. By the way, this is why AI will never work, because what if an AI system goes, hey, humans really value this thing called health, but then they always act in against their own health. What should I do then? What should I do then? It doesn't know what to do, because human aligned values are not always rational, right? So the entire concept of AI making good decisions for you is completely blown away simply by this alone. It's so insane how this stuff eats itself. Anyways, so then we talk about like things like the surveillance state, which of course we're living in. Believe it or not, we are living in the surveillance state right now. Now, I want to be clear that this is, let me just be really clear. I'm going to zoom in here. I want to be really clear. This stuff isn't all bad and nothing but bad. Phones have been a dramatic shift in our world, also for positive. Think about the kinds of things that you can do with your phones and cell phones now. It's actually been a huge positive. Even social media has some huge positives. The internet, some huge positives. Technology for video games. I mean, how many of us get entertainment from video games? Huge positive, right? So I just want to be clear that I'm not saying that the entire tech industry has been built on the backs of evil people and demonic entities and whatnot for the sole purpose of just ruining society, and that you should never use it and you should become Amish and whatnot. No. This stuff has huge positives, including the ability, I'm sitting here right now talking to you people about this stuff because I have like however many people I have, I'm not looking right now, at least 5, I hope, who are just like, hey, this is interesting. Let me hear what Spiro has to say. That's positive. I'm trying to bring up the fact that these things get bundled in. They become Trojan horses with other ideologies that you don't want to have playing out. And I'm trying to inform you, whether you're a programmer in the space or a consumer, that this is the kind of stuff that's playing out around you. And you have every right and absolute power to complain about the stuff and say, no, I don't want this. You can be vocal about it in a way that doesn't, end up, putting a target on your back, so to speak. By the way, I love my wife. I love my life. I will never 404 myself. Okay. I'm just, because I'm going to be getting into some stuff today. I'm putting a target on my back today. All right. So we continue with Pokemon Go. Do you guys remember Pokemon Go? Pokemon Go ended up being basically a massive data collection device. Pokemon Go, I believe, if I remember correctly, don't quote me, I believe they made more money on the data they got from people using Pokemon Go than on the actual usage of the app itself. So I don't think we need to go over this too much, but you can see, I don't think this is a mind-blowing. We all know this happens. We all know data leaks happen. I cover them all the time, right? And that's why I cover them all the time. So if we continue now with all of this data, what happens is that people go, hey, technology moves forward. We have a bunch of data on people. And you know what? We haven't gone far enough. We haven't gone far enough. What we need to do, let me pop this up. We need to merge humans with machine. Transhumanism. We want to enhance the human condition because look at how far technology has come and look at how much data we can get out of you. Julian Huxley, we covered this, Brave New World, popularized the term transhumanism in a 1957 essay. We covered the FM 2030. The FM 2030 was essentially a checklist. It's a PDF. We went over it yesterday. And you answer a bunch of questions. How aligned are you with transhumanism? We covered Max Moore. We covered this. Who created Extropia. Extropia being a transhumanist movement, including cryogenics. And Max Moore and the Extropia movement, the Extropia group, initiated the creation of Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency. It's almost like I planned this. It's almost like I planned it. Then we have scientific work through the 80s, 90s, 2000s, etc., which start to kind of give you the sense that like, hey, maybe it's not so bad if you merged yourself with machines. We have utopias. We covered this yesterday. We're going to cover a few more utopias today in modernity. Utopias being these sectioned off places. When during Operation Paperclip, there were a few people who joined NASA, what became NASA. NASA? I don't know, whatever, NASA. They joined NASA, and one of the first things that they did, this was their first project. Their first project was to create a cybernetic utopia in space. And this led to, well, hey, we need rockets. Hey, we need artificial intelligence. Hey, we need cyborgs. A man can't live out there, by their own pure biological, state, etc. That ended up being NASA. That movement ended up being NASA. And we see cyber utopias attempting to be created today, including metaverse. Okay. We have Nietzsche, who also kind of dabbled in the idea of transhumanism, with the Ubermensch and things like this. But that philosophy played out in philosophical aspects in the scientific community. We have Daedalus. We have the beginning of eugenics and ectogenesis. We have people who worked at Cambridge, Yale, Harvard. We have Arthur C. Clarke's Space Odyssey, etc., the technological singularity. Marvin Minsky, who we talked about before, talks about the concept, at least, of man merging with machine, and it leads to things. We're going to get into this a bit more, so I'm just dropping a few hints here. It leads to stuff like, let me see here. Prometheus, loss of human identity, etc. Here, it leads to things like this. What's this? New eugenics. The tradition of human enhancement originated with the eugenics movement that was once prominent in the biological sciences and was later politicized in various ways. This continuity is especially clear in the case of Julian Huxley himself. The major transhumanist organizations strongly condemn the coercion involved in such policies and reject the racist and classist assumptions on which they were based, along with the pseudoscientific notions that eugenic improvements could be accomplished in a practically meaningful time frame through selective breeding. And so essentially what they're talking about here is opt-in. So they're going like, hey, look, we're not racist and classist, okay? All right? And it's not pseudoscientific for two reasons. So the transhumanists will go, for two reasons you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. We're not racist because it's opt-in. How are we racist if you opt in? We're not classist because it's opt-in. How are we classist if it's opt-in? Hey, we're not pseudoscientific because it's here right now. The tech is here. You're already slapping stuff on your wrist and on your fingers and in your brains, and you're holding it on your hand, basically attached to your hip. It's already here, bro. How is this pseudoscientific? Just take it just a little step further, and now you're into eugenics, where you're required to have a kind of like transhumanist merge with technology as a eugenic movement, where the people who aren't merged with this, they go away because they can't keep up with the old school biological slow identities, right? This is the kind of stuff that exists right now today, and we're going to get into that. Now, let's dig into transhumanists just a little bit. Okay, we're going to go through this a little bit quickly. We have this article here, Transhumanism, the New Cult of the Digital Age. The technological dystopia is not a distant hypothetical future. It is rapidly approaching. Governments and corporations are already investing heavily in transhumanist technologies, and the first waves of these innovations are being integrated into society. I promise we will go into 2000s and 2010s with the Technocracy movement. It leads into this, okay? So we're establishing the foundation of modernity. What things are happening in modernity, and how did the stuff we've learned so far from the 30s onward lead into modernity? So there's Joe Allen, who writes about the idea of transhumanism, the war against humanity. We talked about Julius Huxley, the younger brother of Aldous Huxley. We talked about, I think we've talked about Kurzweil. We now have people like Elon, OpenAI, with artificial intelligence being integrated with you, so on and so forth, okay? So we get this, right? Nothing that we really have to go over here. Now, in order to make all of this happen, in order to make all of this happen, you need to have a system that can be in part self-sustaining. So we talked about this. You have to have something that feeds a large amount of data to a self-sustaining system, so AI. And then you need to have something that exists outside of the system to govern that system. So part of it is AI. Now, I've talked about Operation Paperclip, right? What's really interesting is that we have someone named Nick Bostrom. So let's start tying in some of these ends. Nick Bostrom is a philosopher known for his work on existential risk and superintelligence risks and so on. So essentially, he's trying to provide awareness to people about like, what the hell are you guys doing? It's very interesting that Nick Bostrom talks about the paperclip scenario. Unlike a biological entity, an AI machine recreating itself when it comes to AGI is essentially the paperclip doomsday scenario. So we're just doing a light intro to bring all of these topics together now. Suppose we have an AI whose only goal is to make as many paperclips as possible. The AI will realize quickly that it would be much better if there were no humans, because humans might decide to switch it off. Because if humans do so, there would be fewer paperclips. Also, human bodies contains a lot of atoms that could be made into paperclips. The future that the AI would be trying to gear towards would be one in which there were a lot of paperclips, but no humans. This, to me, is a really, really, really succinct way of describing the different ideologies that we've been talking about here in a very condensed set of sentences. You have the transhumanist movement built into this. You have the concept of let's give more power to machines. You have the concept of machines recreating more machines. You have the concept of the machines not being able to be controlled. You have the idea of humans initially having control over the machines, which means you would have to have a technocratic architecture over top, right? All of this stuff it's super condensed in here. I found this to be very powerful. And you can see the coalescing of all of these kinds of like insane ideas playing out, but the threads are now kind of spread around, right? So as we continue looking into this, we have something very interesting. So we're going to pull on a single thread. We're going to pull on a few threads, just a little bit at a time. Remember Operation Paperclip? Do you guys remember that? Remember Operation Paperclip? Who do you think was one of the German party people who was brought in? Can anybody take a guess where I'm going with this? Who is one of the German people that was brought into the scientific community? Any guesses? I think there's only one. Oh, yeah, there's Einstein. That was, yeah. But not quite, though. Not quite. You're close. Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun. I can't even say some of the words here. He was brought in and he helped rocketry and technology. Now, his group was assimilated to NASA. He served as a director of the newly formed Marshall Space Flight Center. And he was the chief architect of the Saturn V that propelled the Apollo spacecraft to the moon. By the way, we never went to the moon because the moon's not real. I'm kidding. Now, as it so happens, little interesting thing some of you might not know. As it so happens, Werner von Braun wrote a book called Project Mars. He wrote this book in the 1953. Okay? It was published by the University of Illinois Press as The Mars Project because it was based on an earlier book he wrote, which didn't really have a title, The Mars Project. Here. Okay? Now, what does he describe in Project Mars? What does he describe in Project Mars? Let's have a look, shall we? Let's go down here. Publication history, synopsis. Project Mars, a technical tale, takes place in 1980, 30 years in the future. The world is governed by the United States of Earth, established after a devastating war in the 1970s between the Western powers and the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union and its satellite states, as well as Communist China and its satellites. The West won the conflict with the aid of Luneta, an orbiting space station that dropped nukes on the Soviet Union. Soon after peace is declared, a reflecting telescope on Luneta confirms the existence of canals on Mars, vindicating Percival Lowell's assertion that intelligent life exists on the planet. Again, I just want you to remember, we're talking like 30s here, 30s to 50s. The president orders a mission to Mars to establish just how intelligent the Martians are and whether they pose a threat to Earth. Luneta is used as the base from which to launch a 10-space flotilla to Mars. Materials and equipment are ferried from Earth to the space station where the spaceships are constructed and prepared. Von Braun describes in detail the ship's life support systems and the problems caused by cosmic rays, weightlessness, and boredom. Technical details of the voyage are also given, including necessary mid-course maneuvers. Once in orbit around Mars, 3 winged landing craft descend to the surface. And you can see the steam coming out right in your mind's eye. The explorers soon make contact with Martians, who are humanoids in appearance and live underground. Beep, boop, beep, beep. Welcome to Mars. They welcome the Earthlings, who quickly establish the Martians have an ancient and benevolent super civilization. After establishing verbal communication, the humans learn about the Martians' social structure and government, which is run by 10 males under the leadership of who? Under the leadership of who? Under the leadership of who? The Elon. And yes, Elon's dad, or no, I believe maybe his mom, did indeed read the book. And I believe in one in a I can't remember, in an interview she said that at first they said that the name Elon came from something else, but then I believe whichever parent it was said that they read the book and they were influenced to name Elon after this book. The visitors witnessed technology far superior to their own, including underground transport and organ transplants. They also learn Martian views on ethics, morality, and the responsible use of technology. Lockwood. That's right. That's right, Abe. You got it. It's Lockwood. Yeah. Now, things start to make a lot more sense, don't they? As we go, this is why I chose to approach this topic the way I did. Now things are starting to make a lot more sense, right? And you can, if we look at the actual book, this is the actual book, Project Mars. And I just did a search for Elon inside the book. Let's just read what this says. The Martian government was directed by 10 men, the leader of whom was elected by universal suffrage for 5 years and entitled Elon. 2 houses of parliament enacted the laws to be administered by the Elon and his cabinet. The upper house was called the Council of Elders and was limited to a membership of 60 persons, each being appointed for life by the Elon as vacancies occurred by death. In principle, the method was not unlike that by which the College of Cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church is appointed. Usually, the Elon chose historians, churchmen, former cabinet members, or successful economic leaders who could offer lifetimes of valuable experience. The Council of Elders, however, had but limited authority. Proposed laws could be approved or disapproved as presented, but no riders, amendments, or alterations could be voted. The Council of Elders could stimulate, suggest, and test legislation. Its main purpose was not action, but rather to assure the continuity of the basic thought of legislation, as also the protection of that thought. Now, as we bring this into the 2000s and we talk about what happened with Elon in the 2000s, here is Elon's Wikipedia page, and I think a lot of us know what happened here. He is the grandchild of Joshua Haldeman, a co-founder of the Technocratic movement in Canada. That's Elon. Elon is literally the grandchild of one of the co-founders of the Technocratic movement, named in Wernher von Braun's book, by name, to go to Mars. Musk founded the space technology company SpaceX, makes a big push for AI with Tesla, XAI, and so on, purchases Twitter, Neuralink, tunnels, like the tunnels under Mars, all of it. And we already went over how when he was in the White House with Trump was pushing for taking over Canada and Greenland. Do you know why? Because in the technocracy belief, it was required that for technocracy to play out appropriately, you would need to take over all of America, South America, North America, and guess what else? Greenland. And this was established in the 30s. Elon's grandfather knew both about the technocratic movement and about artificial intelligence and about Wernher von Braun, all of it. And he plays exactly the playbook that was outlined in what we've gone over. And you'll note that ever since he had an out with Trump, you don't hear Trump talking about Greenland much anymore, do you? So we have Elon here, and we have Elon's kind of like rise to fame with, I believe it was, let me see here. I'm pretty sure it was Zip2. There it is. Zip2 was his first kind of thing that he did, and then he got into PayPal. He co-founded Neuralink and OpenAI. He got out of that because he felt like artificial intelligence was getting too weird for him. Now he's pushing it a lot. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, so we have Elon out there in the 2000s. And now we have a very, very interesting concept, which is the concept of certain German ideas continue. They don't end there with the idea of Wernher von Braun, okay? They don't end there. We have someone else. So we just drew a direct line between Wernher von Braun and the playing out of certain German ideas, certain... I'm talking about World War II German, okay? I'm trying to avoid saying particular names, right? Those ideas are like just in your face. They're not even hiding it. It's just in your face being spread. It's just that people are usually too lazy to, why would they go and look up all this information, right? Now, we have someone else, U.S. tech investor Mark Andreessen of the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. Now, Mark Andreessen... This guy, okay, thinks that AI is going to take over all jobs except venture capitalists because it's too artistic. He literally said that. We went over it. He's a big guy in the kind of Silicon Valley, space, venture capitalist space, all right? So he talks about the idea of software eating up the world, talks about Airbnb, etc. And out of that comes the concept of Heidegger. Do you guys know who Heidegger is? Heidegger kind of predicted the state that we were going to be in. Heidegger died as the internet was being built, but he had a critique of technology. Heidegger called it the technological inframing. From the standpoint of technological inframing, reality appears as a field of abstract resources amenable to manipulation. If software is eating the world, it is because the world has been inframed in a technological light, reimagined as a set of valves, wires, and diodes to be hacked. Technological inframing is more than just a way of thinking about the world. It is a way of revealing being or reality. And as Heidegger starts to kind of have his philosophy play out before us, there is something very interesting about the way Heidegger explained the world and technology in general. So let's have a little look at Heidegger and then see how this plays out. Let me see here. Let me go back. Let me open this up. And so we'll go over to Heidegger here. So here's Heidegger, right? And what was it? Here. Take note. Heidegger presents three primary structural features of being in the world: understanding, training the AI, attunement, tuning the AI, or reinforcement learning, and discourse, using the AI. So this concept of how the AI systems even think goes back to Heidegger. And by the way, Heidegger was born in 1889 and died in 1976. And he already had the concept of how you would train, tune, and then interact with AI systems, and how the technological ecosystem would play right into it. Okay? So we have this philosophy that's playing out before our eyes. And what happens as a part of this philosophy, now when you start bundling all of this stuff together, you start to see things like people just being far more open about what's going on, with these technological movements. So we have an entire scientific journal dedicated to post-human studies, which is the boundaries between human and the other, technological, biological, and environmental, are eroded, and perceptions of normalcy are challenged. They have generated a range of ethical, philosophical, cultural, and artistic questions that this journal seeks to address. So it's an entire scientific journal dedicated to transhumanism and challenging the concept of what is reality. We have this. The growing liberal attitudes and anti-establishment attitudes inside of technology, the political ideologies of American tech workers. This was a very good study that goes into how people who work in tech have kind of like an opposing set of views, because on the one hand, they want to be liberal, but on the other hand, they also want to be whatever it would be considered like the not liberal. So they did an actual study to determine what kind of ideologies tech workers hold. And yeah, as it turns out, there's a weird mix, because you have anti-establishment and liberalism. Indeed, no other sector sees its employees combining liberal and anti-establishment values as extremely as tech, because it's the technocratic movement built in. It's like, it's almost like it's really weird, right? Because you want to have meritocracy, which technocratic movements kind of like very strictly adhere to. It's ultimate meritocracy. You have to be super credentialed. You have to be the top of top of the top, creme de la creme scientist mathematician in order to be in a technocratic government. That's meritocracy. When we talk about programmers, yeah, we want people of merit to be writing our code. That's absolutely right. And then at the same time, you want the liberal aspect of it where, yeah, but we want you to write code that allows for us to merge with machines because fluidity and we're all machines anyways. Right? It's a very weird mix, this field, of both of these kind of what would most likely be opposing ideas in any other field, attempting to be merged. So this scientific paper, this is a scientific paper, goes into exactly how this plays out, how these ideologies not play out, but how they're like self-reported, let's say, across workers, leaders, companies in Silicon Valley, etc. And there is a huge coalescing of these ideas in Silicon Valley and in the tech industry around Silicon Valley geographically. It's not even just in the field in general globally, but there's something about the Silicon Valley in particular that draws these kind of opposing ideas where people just, it's almost like they're working against themselves. And it's no wonder, because it's around the time of like the 2000s and whatnot. These are just, I don't think there's anything else in here that I want to go over. I don't think so. It's around the time of the 2000s and 2010s that power starts to coalesce because of the amount of information that people receive at building companies like Facebook and whatnot. And then they start to promote whatever ideas they want, no matter how mangled and mixed they are. And as a result of that, you start seeing things being created like React, which is the democratizing of meritocracy in a programming way. You see a lot of garbage collector stuff becoming way more prominent. You see clean code, you see object-oriented programming, because it starts to infect the way people code. Literally. The ideologies behind this stuff that has been brewing and brewing and brewing for a long time starts infecting how you think about the very code you create. For example, Rust. Here is a Rust 2024 State of Rust survey. And they ask a bunch of questions that are like so irrelevant to what the programming language should be. We asked the group that selected yes, which specific groups they identified as being a member of. The majority of those who consider themselves a member of an underrepresented or marginalized group in technology identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or otherwise non-heterosexual. Margaret Mead is clapping from her grave right now. The second most selected option was neurodivergent at 46%, followed by trans at 35%. This is like 1,110 answers broken down by how you identify either ethnically or sexually. Why? Why does this matter? Because the concept of these kind of losing your identity as a human being and being fluid about who you are and you're just a machine, so on and so forth, well, it brings people into technologies like here. Shane Miller, who is part of the Rust Foundation as a chair, and they've had a lot of political fallout for their political and ideological stances, and you have people like this who promote it heavily. They use the technology as a Trojan horse for what they believe, right? Rust isn't the only one that's doing this, but it's an easy one to pick out because they're so open about it. You have, by the way, we're going to talk about Palantir in a minute. Here is Rust with the team listed out here. Okay, this is the Rust team. I think this was 2024. This is I think it's an older site. I can't remember. But there's somebody in here that's very interesting. You have Stephen Fackler here from the library team. The Rust Standard Library, Rustlang crates, conventions, and ecosystem support. I've looked up every single one of these people. Every single one. And might I point you to Stephen Fackler's GitHub. Stephen Fackler has a bunch of Rust stuff. And, where does he work? Where does he work? Interesting. Interesting. As a matter of fact, he has a patent with a few other people at Palantir from 2023, I believe. He is heavily, heavily working with Palantir. And yet we find him amongst these groups. Now, why would this matter? Why would this matter? Well, maybe it doesn't really matter that much until let me pull this up. Until you look at who created Palantir. A person called Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel created Palantir, Founders Fund, Valor Ventures, Mithril Capital. So essentially, he was a big D&D guy, loves Lord of the Rings, and names his companies based on names inside of Lord of the Rings. And he made a boatload of money through a bunch of investments and stuff that he's done. He supports individualism and libertarianism. So now we have somebody who's kind of on the opposite end of what you would typically consider the left. He would probably find himself more on the right. So he does work, he's published work. That's what I mean to say, that goes against the idea of diversity and intersectionality and communism and things like that. He promotes the idea of like Christianity quite a bit, at least currently. Meritocracy in the sense that you and I would probably, think of meritocracy. Things like this. He was participated in the PayPal mafia, so buddies with Elon, etc. General Electric, he had a lot of work with them, Walmart, etc. And Palantir is essentially a very, very big part of what's going on in the tech industry today. It's a big data analysis company named after the token artifact. So essentially what they do is they data mine, which now leads us back to the concept of you need to have data to operate these things. Palantir's first backer was the CIA agency's venture capital arm, InQtel. It grew to be $20 billion. He participated in Facebook, and so I blame him partially for the creation of React. Airbnb, 1517 Fund, Y Combinator, Elevate, Gawker, all that kind of stuff. Now, when we look at what Palantir is getting themselves involved with now, today, something like Rust makes perfect sense, because Rust is a counterculture, right? And so you would want to use something like Rust, and you would want to use something like other ideologies in the programming space to create a counterculture so that you can promote your own ideology. These battles have been playing out for a long time, and they just play out in different ways in modernity. Palantir themselves was trying to say, hey guys, no, this is Palantir's blog. Like, no, we're not a data company. But in their own blog, they basically admit that, yeah, we're a data company. Yeah, we are a data company, but we're not a data company. Okay, I just want you to know that we're not a data company, but we are a data company. So they're doing a very, very big campaign to present themselves as something that, they've been kind of, what would you say, accused of being. Why? Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering if I'm going to get into Trump, there is a history with Trump, but it's not going to fit on the stream. So we're going to have to pull on that thread separately, okay? But Trump, yes, did ask Palantir to participate in data mining for the purposes of pushing forward AI and other reasons. I don't know if this actually came to fruition. I have to confirm that it did based on the passing of the big bill. But at the very least, They were working together, okay? And when you look at what Palantir is involved in, well, they love artificial intelligence. They love facial recognition software. This is the Palantir Wikipedia page. They love the idea of watching as many things as they can for the purposes of helping companies. They sometimes use words like intelligence augmentation. Where is it? Here, intelligence augmentation, etc. Right? So we can see how Elon, how Peter Thiel, how these companies, Extropia, the transhumanist movements, etc., all play into this. They are all participating in their own version of all the stuff we've been talking about. And it doesn't end there. One sec. Here, very quickly, you can just see, I had this one open, I should have shown it. This is Palantir's website, AI-powered automation for every decision. You can see it here. I mean, come on. How do you do this without gathering all the data that you can possibly get? Okay, so don't tell me that you're not. Look, they even have a VR headset. Okay, I mean, they've really gone into it. If you just take a look, if you just poke around the Palantir website, you can see just how far they want to push this stuff, all right? Now, around the same time as these people were popping up, we have someone else who popped up. Curtis Yarvin, who created a company called Urbit. And Curtis Yarvin wanted to have a decentralized server platform with a peer-to-peer network, and he called it Urbit. Created in around 2010, launched in 2013. The first user version was in 2020. And I believe it exists to some degree today, but not exactly in the same degree. It received funding from, oh, guess who? Peter Thiel and Andreessen, Mark Andreessen, who we talked about. Now, who is Curtis Yarvin? Well, Curtis Yarvin has brought up the idea of techno-feudalism, digital feudalism right here in a blog post in 2019. Yarvin said Urbit is not designed as a political structure. He denied in 2022 that Urbit was digital feudalism, although he brought it up. He did talk about something else. He talked about dark enlightenment and neo-reactionary. The word neo-reactionary, he brought it into the forefront. He has a blog post under a pen name called Mencius Moldbug, called unqualifiedreservations.org. He has a bunch of PDFs, and he talks about his own view on how technology should be used, including an ideological bends. So he kind of deconstructs his own view of like conservatism and liberalism and stuff like that. That leaves libertarians. I love libertarians to death. My CPU practically has a permanent open socket to the Mises Institute, which is whatever this is. Okay, there's a bunch of like, anyway, it's a bunch of ideological stuff in here, essentially. In my opinion, anyone who has intentionally chosen to remain ignorant of libertarian thought in an era when a couple of mouse clicks will feed you enough high-test libertarianism to drown a mouse is not an intellectually serious person. So he comes up with the idea of like neo-reactionary movements and dark enlightenment. I don't think he does it in here. Enlightenment, neo-react. I don't think it's in here. Let me switch over to this other thing. That's that one. Okay. And so here we have Curtis Yarvin. There's his Wikipedia page. However, he ends up being far right. So again, we find ourselves in this weird position where he's pulling in different kinds of concepts and ideas as he's blogging, but he essentially ends up in a world of like, more conservative right wing, essentially. It's the reason why is because these ideas are starting to get mixed up in people's minds. This is the problem. This is why it starts to break down at this point, because people are mixing up ideas and thinking that they can somehow bring them together. That you can have a bit of both. You can have your cake and eat it too. But they're just not doing it very well. And so when you read his blog posts, which I've read a few, and some of his books and some of his interviews, it's kind of weird. You don't really get it's hard to start figuring out like what is like Peter Thiel really think? What does Curtis Yarvin really think? But the problem isn't that they're a little bit confusing in the way that they state their beliefs. The problem is that they then fund those beliefs. They bundle in those beliefs into technology. And that's why people have these weird dichotomies in tech where they'll use a logical system like programming, which is purely the laws of logic, but they will try and embed a liberal framework on top of it, which in today's world would be like, don't use the term blacklist or whitelist. Don't use the term master, use the term main, things like this. And then these two things don't make sense. This is playing out. It starts out with the people who are actually stating these things, and that it infects the way that we program. These ideas become just as confusing down here as they are up there. As above, so below. So he starts talking about things like dark enlightenment and the neo-reactionary movement, which started around the late 2000s. The idea being here that, well, we can, you know what? I think we can just kind of go into it a little bit. But I just want to bring out that Jarvis helped J.D. Vance become who he is today. The same J.D. Vance who promoted Doge, which at the time was considered Rage. It was called Rage, I believe. He was an advocate of the acronym RAGE, which he defined as retire all government employees. That was in 2012. And then J.D. Vance comes in and along with Elon, they go Doge. They reframe it as Doge. Now, Dark Enlightenment, it's abbreviated to the Neo-Reactionary Movement, NRX, is an anti-democratic, anti-egalitarian, and reactionary philosophical and political movement. A reaction against Enlightenment values, it favors a return to traditional societal constructs and forms of government, such as absolute monarchism and cameralism. Influenced by libertarianism, the movement advocates for authoritarian capitalist city-states which compete for citizens. Neo-reactionaries refer to contemporary liberal society and institutions which they oppose as the cathedral. And so the cathedral influences public discourse to promote progressivism and political correctness, which they view as a threat to Western civilization. This movement also espouses scientific racism, which is the belief that humans are divided into biologically distinct taxa called races, and that empirical evidence exists to support or justify racial discrimination, inferiority, or racial superiority. It is a pseudoscientific view which they claim is suppressed by the cathedral. This is very, very strange because it's like all of these opposing views coming together and attempted to be promoted. Steve Bannon, J.D. Vance, Michael Anton, even Donald Trump, hobnob with Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, etc. And this idea of feudalism, the cathedral, and this absolute monarchism and all of that stuff plays out in the decisions that they make at a governmental level. Here's an article on the recurrence of neo-reactionaries. And this article goes into how neo-reactionaries kind of they kind of ebb and flow. There's someone called Nick Land who helped to promote neo-reactionary ideology on 4chan and Reddit and other groups. And they kind of promote their ideology through technical means, and they do it to anybody who will listen and point to things that make their case and then ignore points that don't, essentially. So people are aware of this kind of movement. They know that it exists and they know the people behind them. There are plenty of articles you can find like this one. There's tons out there, right? So this stuff is very well known. Now, as we continue, we did this one. Did that one. Did that one. Yeah, sure, did this one. Did this one. I'm just trying to find the next one. Okay, so as we continue now, what we see is all of these people start to coalesce at the top, and you have the broligarchy. We have the broligarchy. And so you can see tech trillionaires coming together. Okay, Washington, D.C., January 20th, 2025. Guests include Mark Zuckerberg, Lauren Sanchez, Jeff Bezos, Sundar Pichai, Elon Musk attend the inauguration of Donald Trump. And I haven't even got into Zuck very much or the other ones. We're going to pull on those threads individually. I just wanted to bring out a few. And you can see how they've consolidated power, because as people have more and more dependency on technology, they essentially control it. There are ties to Rockefeller, the British East India Company, J.P. Morgan, etc. We'll pull on the threads. Don't worry, we'll get there. But these people are using technology and implementing their ideology into it, and they're now standing at the top. Vanguard, BlackRock. Now we have OpenAI. We have what's that place called? I can't remember. There's a company that's propping up a lot of these AI companies. I can't remember what it's called, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So you can see how these things coalesced. Coming up from the 2000s onward. Now there are some other movements that are also happening around this time as contemporaries. The hype cycle of object-oriented programming, we went over that, right? We went over the clean code, this article, The Economics of Clean Code. Clean code starts to take a hold. Ideological, like I said, with Rust, right? These things, these kinds of ideologies and ideas start to take hold. We'll go out of this one, not that one, not that one. Okay, I have to go back a bit because I think I skipped. Okay, yes. We start having movements where where people want to have kind of like their own independent space among cyberspace. We covered that in the 1900s, but it starts to really pump up in the 2000s. So you have cyberspace and people wanting to block off their own portion of cyberspace. So they start doing things like pushing forward Bitcoin and blockchain transactions, and NFTs start to become a thing, and personal kind of groups start to form. The Electronic Frontier Foundation was partially formed around this. We'll get into the history of the EFF as well. We have other things popping up as well, including cults. We've already talked about some cults that exist, like the VMNZ or whatever. Let me just go on to another one. We have the Zizian cults. Okay, it's a cult-like group referred to as the Zizians, linked to a string of violent deaths across the U.S. It has its roots in Silicon Valley. They're a movement called rationalism. Who are these groups and what do they believe? A cult-like group is believed to be behind a string of violent deaths across the United States. On New Year's Eve in 2022, Rita and Richard Zacko were shocked and unfortunately 404'd in their home in suburban Philadelphia. Who are they? Let's go down a little bit. Yep, they've done several attacks. Some people survived. The Zizians have roots in Silicon Valley AI research and a community known as the Rationalists. So Max Reed is apparently one of them. Hi, Deborah. How are you? Says Max Reed. I'm okay. Let's start with Ziz in the group. And we should say they may not call themselves that in the group's founder, known as Ziz. Tell us a little more. Ziz comes from Alaska. She went to school at Fairbanks and moved to the Bay Area in 2016. And she wanted to find a job in the tech industry and became involved in what's known as AI safety or alignment, which at the time, we've probably all heard these terms more recently because of how big the AI industry has become. But at the time, it was much more of a sort of niche concern. The main idea of which was that as we're creating more and more powerful AI systems, we might one day create a system so powerful, so intelligent, so conscious, that we have an obligation to ensure it's aligned with human value, so to speak. And this was, at the time, and still is a main concern of what's known as the rationalist movement, what tends to call itself the rationalist movement. So she got a few people together who had the same idea. People outside were not taking AI alignment seriously enough. So protests start happening. We called ourselves the Zizians, wearing Guy Fawkes masks in the manner of Anonymous, handing out flyers, instructing people to spurn the rationalist leadership. So on the one hand, I can actually kind of agree with the principle behind the concept here. Hey, let's make people aware of the danger pushing forward AI and artificial general intelligence should we ever get there. However, how they get there as rationalists become very, very dangerous. So as they continue to grow, what is the really big main theme here connected to these killings? Like why rationalists, this is the person interviewing, why, if they are in fact supposed to use scientific thought to improve the world and do good, how do we go from clearly using violence and being interconnected? And the person who is a Zizian says, it seems worth noting that the rationalist movement, so to speak, what is called rationalism in this context and in the Bay Area and around Silicon Valley, is maybe not identical to the rationalism of, say, René Descartes, or the philosophers who might have called themselves rationalists. In some ways, a sort of self-help movement, and in some ways, a kind of gathering place for people with particular interest in AI and other kinds of big long-term thinking. And a characteristic feature isn't simply using reason to live a better life or to figure out what good politics might be, but to unburden yourself of the unconventional wisdom or morality that is irrational, and therefore holding you back from understanding the sort of the true best in life. And I think that means in practice pursuing these very abstract philosophical games and experiments, and then trying to live your life in concert with the conclusions you draw from those. So maybe a less difficult version of this, or a less fraught version of this, is what eventually came to be called effective altruism, which is the sort of philanthropic idea that the main goal, if you're giving money away, if you're donating to charity, is to save as many lives as possible. Wait, but how does this get into the extremes? The answer is veganism. What? Veganism? Yes. How strongly a person might come to believe in the crime that is factory farming or killing animals if you believe they are sentient and can feel pain. And if you take the idea seriously, if you take it so seriously that you rearrange your life, you might begin to believe that you're justified in 404ing people in order to do what's best for the animals. Can you see how these kinds of ideologies get injected and maybe even stem from philosophies out of technocracy? There's an interplay. There's like a yin and yang here where these things play against each other. They use each other to push and pull society, and it's becoming more abstract, more, let's say, fragmented. And it becomes harder to track in today's day and age. It might be the case that I'm not going to be able to do as good a job covering what's going on in modernity because of idiotic statements like this, with the fragmentation of AI and just the raw, push forward with these systems. I might not be able to do as good a job unless I wait 20 years. Hopefully I live that long. And then I do a retrospective on like what happened in the 2010s, 2020s, and I might be able to come up with a better summary. But this kind of stuff is wild. This cult came up out of the concept of AI as like, hey, we don't really like the way that AI is going. Let's do something about it. Let me see if there's any. Yes. Okay, and then continuing on with the idea of the counterculture, we want to separate ourselves from kind of like the world around us. You have the Seasteading Institute, which is not a cult, but it's something similar. Maybe not similar to a cult, but essentially what this is it's a tech for 10,000 startup countries. You essentially build these like tech startup outposts in the sea, and it's funded by people we've talked about. I believe one of the funders of Seasteading investors. I believe it's Peter Thiel. Is it Peter Thiel? Let's see. Yeah, Peter Thiel. There you go. And so what they want to do is they want to create their own utopia, just like after Operation Paperclip, the scientists from Germany were creating space-based utopias, technical utopias, which became NASA. The utopias on Mars, etc. And have a look. You can have a helicopter, land on this place, right? And so these cults, these transhumanists that we covered yesterday, a bunch of transhumanist cults we covered yesterday, the philosophies behind it starting to get merged and becoming weird, and people can't differentiate between the two things, right? All of these things start to play out in the 2000s and the 2010s. We also have stuff like Less Wrong, which is essentially a group of people who also have weird kind of like, hey, AI alignment stuff is bad. There's AI dangers, but then they promote other stuff that doesn't kind of like add up with it. It doesn't make a heck of a lot of logical sense. Some of the stuff they talk about with regards to things like chemistry, I believe there's one here, biology, things like that. You start seeing these weird groups pop up out of here, and they embed these long-term technocratic ideologies, philosophies, German backgrounds, whatever. At the same time, by the way, do you guys remember the Chilean government? Well, guess what? It's not over. It's happening right here in my country. Yeah, Less Wrong is Yudkowsky. Yeah, we'll pull on that thread. That's right. We'll go into Less Wrong with Yudkowsky. Yeah. Right here in my country, where anytime I have to go anywhere, I have to hop on a Mies. We don't have Uber, we have Mieser. And you swipe right or left on good-looking Mies. Okay, you got to get the strong ones. And then a Mies hops up. And a moose, okay? I say Mies for multiple. I screwed that up. It's a moose, okay? You get a good-looking moose, right? And you hop on, and it gives you a ride to the closest maple syrup store. And then you drink the maple syrup, and it empowers you for the day. That's all we have. We don't actually have food here. If you ever come to Canada, there's no food here. It's just bottles of maple syrup. We just hand them around, okay, as we ride on our Mies. Do you remember the Chilean government in Cybersyn? That was the name of the technocratic government that they actually established. CYBERSYN. MapleSync. Yeah. Project MapleSync. Proposed cybernetic economic planning for Canada. That's right. It's happening here. This started in the late 2010s, and it is continuing to be thought of here in the 2020s. The kernel of the idea is Project MapleSync, an inclusive, open source distributed economic decision-making system for Canada. MapleSync is a proposal for open source national level accounting and strategic indicative planning systems that anyone can contribute to. The idea is that by providing better baseline information to entrepreneurs and more, we build capacity for greater prosperity in terms of economic, social, and environmental wealth. This cybernetics, by the way, is just a different name for technocracy. So they've just taken technocracy and they've made a few tweaks. Open source, which is, by the way, socialist communist adjacent, okay? It's socialist let's just be real here. Open source is socialist communist adjacent, all right? Okay? It's just open sourcing, gathering a bunch of data, and then having people make decisions on it. It's just a twist on technocracy and cybernetics. Okay, so this stuff continues. The cults continues. The belief systems continue. We have this. Transhumanism continues. The Methuselah Foundation. Methuselah is based on a biblical person, the grandfather of Noah in the Hebrew Bible, whose lifespan was recorded as 969, right? And what this foundation wants to do is they would like to have, by 2030, tissue engineering and regenerative medicine therapies. This is essentially life extension through scientific and technical integration. This is transhumanism for the elongating of life, no pun intended. Oh, and look at this. Huh. We see NASA again. And do I have any more? I think that's it. Let me have a look here. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did that. We did all that. And okay, so that essentially lays down the groundwork for everything. We are going to in the future get into some of this. A Greek person that I have a love-hate relationship for, partially because he's a fellow Greek, and sometimes he says smart stuff, and sometimes he says the stupidest stuff on the planet. We'll get into him. He talks about techno-feudalism, crypto, the left and the right. He does bring up some good points, the oligarchy, stuff like that. But we've essentially laid the groundwork now. We are now in modernity. Yeah, gematria. Yeah, friendless. Yeah, man. We are now in modernity. We're basically caught up, and I've dropped basically, as many examples as I could in a short amount of time of all of these kinds of ideas playing out throughout the decades. And you can see how it impacts the way that technology is created, the way that we code, the way that hardware is now being generated, why the Majestic 7 in the stock exchange are holding on to so much power and money using AI. All of this stuff, it all interplays historically and currently. So moving forward, what this means is that I can now focus on specific elements, maybe specific people, and take some time and build out some of these narratives a bit more. We'll go back into some historical stuff. We'll jump around back and forth, and I can go back to covering the daily tech news somewhat more normally, where I do articles, security news, scientific papers, and then we'll drop in little bits and pieces of technocracy, but in smaller chunks now. We've essentially done the entire timeline. We've built up the entire timeline. You've got the major hits, the big hits. There are more to come. We're going to do deep dives, but there you go. That's it, folks. Pay me money. Pay me money. I'll hang out for a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be on Discord. I'll probably be on Discord after for a while. I'll hop on. And yeah, I think I will actually. So pound Discord in chat if you want to chat. I want to talk to lower class. I don't even know if he's still here, but I need to talk to him. I wanna have a stream with him. That'd be fun. If you like what I'm doing here and you appreciate the information, it takes a lot of effort. I was up till you can ask on Discord. I was up till 5 a.m. last night. Slept about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. Got up this morning, continued prepping for the stream because I wasn't going to stream today. And then I've gone for it. It's a lot of work. So I appreciate the financial support. It does mean a lot to me if you're able to do that, but I realize that it's not easy to do that. So for a lot of people, even parting with $5 is a big deal. I used to be homeless, so I know $5 for me used to mean a McDonald's meal that would get me by for the day. So but ultimately, this isn't actually about the money. I just want to make sure I say thank you to all the people who have financially supported so far and who continue to do so, subs on Twitch and whatnot. Ultimately, I want to get this information out there so that you guys are informed about what takes place in this industry, and that you, especially as a consumer, but also as a programmer who participates in this space, you have a choice. It doesn't have to be this way. We have everything we need to make this stop. and to completely change the state of the tech industry with very little effort. The amount of pain and effort is very low compared to what it's going to be in the next 1 or 2 years. Vote with your dollar, please. If it comes up, naturally in conversation, talk about this stuff. I'm going to be updating the enlightenedprogramming.com website today. I'm very, very behind on that. If you want to support me financially and you want to have access to all this data, it will all be on there. I'm just a few episodes behind, but I'll go update it, and you can search for it and everything. I have to make some updates there because it's not the best. And ultimately, what I ask is that you hit the like and subscribe and do all the free stuff. That's the best thing you can do. Like, subscribe, repost, reshare, talk about it, point to the videos, use this as information. That's the best thing I can ask for, because if enough people say something, and if you know people that you think I would be good to go on stream and talk to, go and on my behalf, absolutely go on my behalf and be like, hey, you should get Spiro on your stream to talk about this stuff. So please do that, because it's about getting this information out there. Help me do that. Advocate for getting me on other streams, and other people. That stuff is what helps. Okay. I appreciate all the support so far. Com.b, I don't know. It might be, maybe you did get removed for inactivity. I don't know. I don't recall anybody being removed from my Discord on purpose. Maybe once a long time ago, but I don't think it was you, Com.b. So I'm not sure, man. You might have to rejoin. Or DM me if you can DM me wherever if you have a problem. We all Luddites. We debanked ourselves. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, friendless. That's it. I'll stick around for a minute or two if you guys have questions or you want to talk about anything. Otherwise, I will catch you on Discord after this. Give address so we can send cash. It's !tip, man. !tip. That's it. You just got to go there, man. Or just drop subs. DDaver, come on, man. Why do you need my address? Oh, fine. If you DDaver, if I give you my address, if I post it in chat right now, do you promise to give me money? Do you promise, DDaver, if I give you my address right now, you promise me, you pinky promise you'll give me money? Kotel and Patristic Faith do transhumanist and AI content. Okay, I'll check them out. Yeah, I'll check them out. If you know them, like if you can talk to them, okay, sure. It's going to be, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's going to be 127.1. Yeah. If you know them and you want to tell them like they should get me on or something, Crispy, by all means, yeah, do that, because I'll happily go on anybody's platform and talk about it. So I think the problem is that I'm too small. Like right now, shut up. Okay, I know the jokes that are coming. Use your digital currency only. Yeah, shut up. Okay, I didn't mean it that way. I'm a dinky little streamer. I don't have very many people, right? So I don't have pull. If I'm going to ask to go on a bigger platform, it's going to be an uphill battle. So if you can advocate for me and you want to have me on, yeah, Crispy, if you want to advocate for me, I'm happy to go on, man. It's much better if other people advocate on my behalf and say, hey, you should have this guy on, because on my own, people are going to look at me and be like, who the hell are you, man? It gets worse the more you talk about your size. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Kotel. Yeah, he does panels. All right. I'll check him out, man. I'll check him out. Thanks. Thanks, Crispy. I'll check him out. If he does panels, then I can hop on. Yeah. It's good. If you guys have other ideas for people I should go talk to or reach out to or whatever, absolutely let me know. I'm happy to do it. Okay, last chance before I end the stream. Hopefully that was okay. I did kind of have to rush through piecing together the information. I try and take my time to put it together. I will be taking my time now. Now we can slow down. We can take time. to put together info, so it'll be much better. Is there a follow? Oh, is there a tip? Somebody just tipped me. What the hell? Let me go check. Who tipped me? I'm gonna make sure I do a proper shout out. Let's have a look, shall we? Who was kind enough to tip me? You crazy, crazy. There we go. Dude, thank you. D-Daver, thank you for the tip, man. Damn, thank you. I really appreciate that. $10 is $10, man. I'll take it. It genuinely helps pay the bills. It's good for the algorithm too, because it means, you know, you get attention that way. 875. D-Daver, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm considering buying access to a journal that I use all the time. So that's why I've left the donation bar up here, because I haven't actually taken, most of that money still there and available. What I'm going to try and do is try and use this money to pay for things that help with this stream. So like some of this stuff just automatically gets paid out, like $20 or something like that. Like Twitch does some kind of payout automatically at the end of the month. So there's maybe like, I don't know, 20 or 40 bucks out of it. But most of that money is still there. I haven't done anything with it because I'm trying to think of a good way to make sure you know, if you guys are going to tip me, make sure I use it for important things. If I need to pay bills, fine. But if I don't have to do it right away, maybe I can just use it to make the stream better in one way or another. So I'm contemplating, you know, and I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you, D-Dever. Sub on Twitch. Yeah. Yeah. It's the free stuff is the most helpful, honestly. Liking the video. Yeah. Following, all that stuff. It's the free stuff that helps. Okay. That's it. That's awesome. That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. We started off strong. You guys were hilarious. You guys suck now. You guys aren't as funny. So I don't care. I'm bored. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on voice, on Discord voice after the stream. I will be on at least for a little while. You guys can come on and chat with me. Peace out. Stay safe out there. Stay safe out there. All right. Oh, guys, I'm really sorry. I forgot. Werner von Braun wrote a book in 1937 called People in Sparrow's Chat Who Suck. Yep. So here we go. Crispy, you suck. Allergen, you suck. Laughly, you suck. D-Daver, you don't suck today. You don't suck today because you actually sent money. I appreciate it, D-Daver. Thanks again, man. Streamlabs, you suck. Sophie, you suck. Com.B, you suck, even though especially because you had to rejoin Discord. Friendless, you suck. Peercoin, you suck. Laughly, you suck twice today. Yeah, that's right. TMX, you suck. Ghost, you suck. Chronix, you suck. I got this. I'm just going through the book. I just gotta change the page. Abe, you suck. I already got TMX, so that's fine. Man, you guys chatted a lot today. Lawler, you suck. Onat on X, you suck. Evil Eye, you suck. Irikar, you suck. Pignub, you suck. Laughly, you suck 3 times today. Okay? Specious, you suck. Mist, you suck. That's right. That's right. And you know what, TMX? Just because you said that, TMX, you suck twice. All of you suck. Every single one of you sucks. Premature suckage. See you on Discord. Peace out, everybody. By the way, have I told you all how much you suck? I just want to be really clear that all of you suck so much. I just want to be really clear. You all suck so much. Every single one of you sucks. All of you suck all the time, everywhere. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay, you all suck. Hey, laugh. Hey, laugh. You suck. Okay, yeah, that's right. You suck. Yeah, what do you think now, Laugh? You thought you could escape? That's why I waited, sucker. That's why I waited. Peace out. TMX, you suck again. Yeah, that's right. You suck again. Okay, for real now. I'm out of here. See you on Discord. Peace out, everybody.